having diabetes is kind of absurd, like the things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And like that's something I really like right now is like making diabetes art, that it's like only diabetics understand this and like we can like make fun of it and like laugh about it. I've learned so much more about diabetes through the online community than I ever have through my doctor.
Hi, Kate. Welcome to the Via Diabetes interview series. It's nice to have you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Could you tell us your diagnosis story and maybe a little bit how you manage your diabetes day to day on top of your regular job and life?
I was diagnosed when I was 10 years old, so it's been 18 years now that I've had diabetes. I went into DKA, but I didn't go into like a coma or like anything like that. But I definitely had like all the bad symptoms of like I lost a ton of weight and I was like already pretty like scrawny child. So and I had no idea what was happening to me. Like I didn't know why I was so thirsty. And my parents noticed when we took a road trip north to go camping. Like I asked to stop at the gas station like so many times to get these like huge Gatorades. And I thought that would help because it was like electrolytes, but that was obviously making it way worse. And then I was like asking to go to the bathroom all the time as well on the way up. So my parents like definitely noticed then. And my aunt is a nurse, so I think my parents were like talking with her about like these weird symptoms that I was having. And then she was like, yeah, you need to like take her to the doctor immediately when you get back. So then we went to the doctor and then I got transported to like a children's endocrinology place, and then yeah, that's like where it all started. But yeah, I was really young and there wasn't as much information back then, so it was definitely like a long journey to like figuring out the management and stuff like that. And even now, like I'm 28 and I'm still learning stuff about it. I have an insulin pump. I have the Tandem Mobi, and then I use the Dexcom G7 as a CGM. So I think having that technology helps so much with my management day to day.
And I guess having a nurse in the family helped because that maybe you caught it earlier because of her, right?
Yeah, I think so too. I think like that camping trip really was what we needed to catch it earlier. But it was just like a very interesting time to be diagnosed because I think like 10 years old is like such a time when you're like trying to like come into your own a little bit and like figure out like what you like for hobbies and like who your friends are and like kind of like where you fit in. So it's just like really hard like trying to like go into middle school, like you're getting older. And then, like, I also had this, like, huge thing that I had to, like, learn how to navigate and deal with.
Wow, that must have sucked. So I discovered you through your art. I know that you have an Instagram dedicated to diabetes-related art. When did you start this page, and what kind of impact have you been seeking to have through the art, would you say?
I think I started it, like, probably 6 years ago. I think it was, like, around the time of the pandemic. And I was kind of new to, like, the diabetes online community. But I wanted to be a part of it, and like I didn't see a lot of people making art about diabetes. I like to touch on like mental health and kind of like making art that's like inspiring or encouraging to diabetics, like things that I would want to hear, whether it's like affirmations or just like telling people that it's okay to like mess up and be imperfect. And then I also like to kind of like make fun of certain things with diabetes as well, or just like make jokes about it, because I think that is something that like really helps. And like having diabetes is kind of absurd, like the things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, and other people don't understand that and get that. So I like that's something I really like right now is like making diabetes art, that it's like only diabetics understand this, and like we can like make fun of it and like laugh about it.
And how do you think it's been received so far? Like, have you been able to kind of connect with the community quite well?
Yeah, I think it's been received really well. I think that like the diabetes online community is an amazing place, and I didn't know it even existed until 6 years ago. And like it has just been so amazing for so many different reasons for me, just like connecting to a community of people and like kind of having online support all the time is so amazing. And like I feel like there's just so many people online that I feel like are genuinely my friends, and like just having people that I can like always go to and be like, hey, like have you ever done this before or experienced this, I've learned so much more about diabetes through the online community than I ever have through my doctor.
So what are some maybe common misconceptions or stigmas that you've faced as a type 1 diabetic?
Oh my gosh, so many. Like, I think we all have, really. But I guess it's interesting that, like, misconception of diabetes is such a huge part of living with diabetes. Because, I don't know, I think, like, I grew up knowing that from a very young age. And I think for a lot of people, it happens where, like, when you realize that people don't understand it and, like, make ignorant comments about it, like, if you can eat that, or if you ate too much sugar, or that you don't look diabetic, things like that, like, you kind of learn to, like, not talk to people about it. At least that's what I did. I just hated being misunderstood, and I, like, felt exhausted from explaining myself, especially being so young. Like, being, like, in my teens and, like, having to, like, explain something to someone who doesn't understand it at all was just, like, really difficult. And I think I've come a long way with that now. I don't feel the same way in terms of, like, hiding it. But I still experience, like, some burnout from, like, explaining diabetes to other people. Like, I feel very comfortable talking about it. I feel confident in having diabetes, but it's not something I always want to talk about with people. Like, sometimes I don't mention things because I'm like, I just don't feel like getting into it. And I think a lot of us experience that, where it's like, on one hand, like, you do want to educate people and talk to people about it, but on the other hand, it is a lot, like, it's a kind of a burden to take that on.
Have you dealt with any kind of mental health issues around your diabetes?
Yeah, so many mental health issues. That is, like, kind of what made me seek out a community online, because I didn't realize, like, how much it was, like, hurting me my whole life until I kind of, like, processed those emotions. But, like, I just felt so defeated by diabetes, and, like, by the time I got into college, I was, like, becoming more comfortable with having diabetes and, like, talking about it and that kind of thing. But there was just, like, so much for me to process, because I grew up and, like, there wasn't, like, mental health, like, support for diabetics that I knew of when I was growing up, and no one, like, talked to me about it either, which is, like, to no one's fault, but it was just really difficult. Like, I had no help in, like, processing the fact that I had a lifelong chronic illness as a 10-year-old and, like, what that would mean for me, and then, like, taking on all the responsibility of managing diabetes, which is, like, a huge thing for a child to take on. So I think I just had so many emotions about that, and then also, like, this pressure of feeling like I need to be perfect at diabetes. I need to manage this. Like, I need to have control over my blood sugars. And obviously, yeah, on one hand, that's true. But, like, I never had any education around the fact that, like, diabetes in and of itself is imperfect. And, like, you cannot know everything about what's going on in your body. And, like, I never knew those things. So, like, carrying all that with me, like, my whole life until, like, into adulthood was, like, really it just like really weighed me down at some point. And I kind of, like, realized that because I was having so many, like, breakdowns about diabetes. Like, when things would go wrong, I had, like, no tolerance for what was happening to me. And that's kind of, like, how I realized that I was having all these, like, struggles with mental health and diabetes. That was the first time that I seeked out a therapist, which was really interesting because I had told my endo at the time that I was, like, really struggling mentally with it, and they set me up with a therapist in the office who also had diabetes and, like, did therapy related to type 1 diabetes, which was so interesting. And, like, that was, like, such a great benefit that I, like, never knew about and never had before. So that was, like, really life-changing, honestly. It was, like, it was a short period of therapy, unfortunately, so I don't feel like I got everything that I needed from it, obviously, but it was really, like, life-changing for me, and, like, getting to finally, like, just process some of those emotions, and someone to tell me that it's, like, it's okay to have them.
I guess I'd like to know whether there's anything that you think that the government in the US or businesses in the US could do more of to help yourself or other diabetics in the country.
Yeah, I think, like, the most obvious one is definitely access to healthcare and, like, affordable healthcare, because we have a huge issue with, like, people rationing insulin because they can't afford it. We've kind of made some progress with things. Like they did like a $35 cap on insulin, but that doesn't apply to everyone, and that's like the other issue. So it's like we're kind of making steps towards it, but like we need to be better about this. It needs to be more accessible because this is like life or death for diabetics. And then aside from that, I'd say like with businesses, it's just like building a community, I think, is like the most important thing that I see. And kind of like the mental health piece is really important to me personally because it's something that I've struggled with so much. And having a community is like the thing that has helped me the most personally. So I think like when there are businesses, like if they are selling to diabetics or whatever it is, if they have a product for diabetes, personally, I like to see businesses that are selling to diabetics and they are also diabetic because more than anything, like diabetics need support and we need to be represented accurately.
And then my last question is, if you could give one message to maybe your 10-year-old self or to someone today who's just been diagnosed with diabetes, what would you say?
Yeah, I think the two things that would have been like the biggest help to me at diagnosis especially would be that you don't have to do it perfectly, and it's okay that you're not going to do it perfectly. Diabetes is so difficult and like it's a huge weight. And the other one would be to find a community or like at least someone that you can relate to that has diabetes, because I got my first diabetic friend in college, and I just like never realized like how big that would be for me. There's so many people on Instagram, there's so many people on TikTok, like anything that you want to learn about diabetes is like so accessible by diabetics online, which I think is amazing. I wish I could go back and just be like, you need this support, like go find people somewhere and talk to them.
Thank you so much for making the time to speak with me. It's been a pleasure to get to know your story and also to hear your perspective from the US. Where can people find you if they want to follow your art content?
Thank you so much. This was great. I'm on Instagram and TikTok as @thrivabetic. It's spelled THRIVABETIC.